Hey, Kids Cook Real Food, Katie Kimball here, and I am thrilled to host my friend Matt Gersper today. Matt and I met at a conference, and he is so full of energy. I cannot even believe he's got all these ideas, and he's pulling me into things. Matt Gersper is the founder of HappyLiving.com, and it's kind of a second career for him. He had a real job, made a real business, grew the business huge, got rid of that, could have just sat back and retired. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to give back to the world in some really cool ways that we're going to talk about today. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Oh, thank you very much, Katie.
So tell us about HappyLiving.com. Why did you start this at a point in your life when you could have literally just bought a house on a lake and put your feet up?
Well, I did buy a house on a lake, but I didn't put my feet up. This was back in like 2014, and as you said, the real business that I was working was in international trade, and we had just merged two companies together, and I had moved out of the day-to-day operations into the chairmanship. And so in that role, I had about a year's left of probably full-time work, but then I was envisioning acting like a real chairman of the board and just doing oversight. And so I started thinking about, what am I going to do next? And I started thinking about just being grateful for the success that I had had. And success is, it's based on hard work, but it's also based on luck. And in this case, I've worked hard my whole life, but these 10 years just hit it. And so, I really felt grateful for that. And the catalyst for Happy Living was actually a dinner party that I had in Portland, Oregon. When I was going around talking to all my investors about not wanting to sell my company because we were making so much money, we could not invest it and make a better return. So I was up in Portland making this pitch to say, no, let's keep the company, let's solve our issues and keep the company. And I went out to dinner on a separate night with just a personal high school friend of mine and my son, Kyle. And so Kevin and Kyle and I were talking and just about life and about, things that were coming up and some of the conversations you and I had. And my friend, who is my same age, we were probably 52 at the time, must have said a dozen times that, Kyle, your dad and my glory days are behind us. And
that hurts a little.
The first time he said it, I ignored it. The second time, he just kept saying it. And afterwards, I said, I walked him out to his car afterwards. I said, Kevin, I just got to tell you, I just feel like I'm getting ramped up in life. Certainly there's things I can't do that I could do when I was 24 years old physically, but maybe not even that many of them. But there's so many other things you can do as you gain experience in living life. And so my belief is that I can get better at something every single day. And I've lived my life that way. And I realized in talking with Kevin and reading a book it's called Halftime, about what people do when they reach the midpoint of their life, and a lot of them give up. I thought, what I want to do is I want to come up with a company. I want to come up with a way to give back and to explore, why do I think like I do? And so many others think that they can't get better at a certain stage in their life. And so that was really the catalyst for Happy Living, and we built a business around that idea.
And the mission of Happy Living is?
To improve the health and well-being of the world, which is gigantuous, but one person at a time. And that's something I'm really struggling with, because in the first half of my life, I just wanted to succeed, and I wanted the spotlight to shine on me that, look at Matt, he's the successful one. So I was really operating out of my ego. And in that process, I did plenty of good things. I'm generally pretty much a nice person, but I was doing a lot of it for selfish reasons. And so we added, to improve the health and well-being of the world, one person at a time. And what I'm trying to do is to really just honestly, truly give back out of the kindness of my heart, not worrying how many clicks we get, how many people are going to watch this show, how many books we might be able to get in readers' hands. Try not to think of that. I even had to correct myself to talk about selling books. I shouldn't worry about selling books or selling products. I should worry about reaching people. So
Nice.
we added one person at a time to try to rein in my massive ego and to really think. I mean, I thought, as you said, I don't have to do any of this. What if I really, all I did for the rest of my life was change and improve the life of one person in my family? Wouldn't that be enough? It should
The world
be
is made
enough.
up of one people at a time. You know, the world's made up of single people who are working together.
They are. So that's our mission.
That is so cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's inspirational, and it has to be a little bit freeing for you to be able to write online and speak and kind of run a business without worrying about all the numbers. Like, that's the boring part as a business owner anyway. That's the stressful part. So I like that you bring it to like a microcosm. Like, I'm just going to talk to one person. I'm going to reach one person. I'm going to change one person's life. I'm going to help one person. And that's definitely, you know, if we can do that enough, that is the way the world changes.
Right.
We can't think too big. So now I do think, and I talked to me, you've explained to me kind of what you created out of. You said you think differently than at least half the other people, and I would say you think differently than 95% of most people. And so you tried to codify that. You know, people love a system. We love knowing what to do. We love boxes. We love knowing where to go. So tell us a little bit about this system you've created called the Belief Roadmap and the 7 pieces to that.
So the Belief Roadmap is the first book that I wrote. I wrote it along with my oldest daughter, Kayleen, who was working with me at Happy Living when we started. Cool. She since went off and she's become a grandbaby making daughter. And so now I have 2 grandchildren, but she left the business to do her thing as a mommy, and she's doing it brilliantly. So her and I created this first book, and when we started Happy Living, one of the things I know as an entrepreneur, and everybody will tell you, is you have to have a tight niche, like teaching children how to cook, right? That's a nice tight niche. Everybody give Katie an A+ for her business plan. My goal
is easy to understand, yeah.
Yeah, my mission was to improve the health and well-being of the world, and what's that niche? Well, who are you reaching? Oh, everybody, anybody. And you're not supposed to do business that way. So what I wanted to do is at least put some parameters on what we would talk about, what we would write about, what we would research about. And so what I wanted to think in terms of how do we help people build capacity? How do we help people find inspiration and find their purpose in life? And how do we help people identify what I call living a life of significance? And that means that we define that as doing work that you love. And I believe with all my heart that you have to work. You might not have to work for compensation, for money compensation, but you have to get up every day. Human beings need this, and go do something. And if you do that something that you love, that's pretty cool. And if you do, and as you're doing the thing you love, if you're creating value to others, that's the magic.
That's great.
Thank you. So significance sits at the top. That's the goal. That's my goal in life, to live a life of significance. And if I can help even one other person do that, boy, that'd be fantastic. At the bottom of the pyramid, it's all about creating personal capacity to be stronger, to be more, so that I'm able, if I have more capacity than I need in life, then I can give. If I don't have as much capacity as I need in life, then I have to take. I need help. So in terms of building capacity, we created what we call our 4 fitnesses: physical fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, and financial fitness. And so that is all about, can I be strong and healthy and emotionally reliable and just as powerful a person as I can be, so that I can do what I love, I can work, and I can do things, and I can have excess capacity to help others. And helping others might be physically, it might be financially, it might be whatever the others need that I have to give.
So the base of the pyramid is like your fuel. It's your input, what you're able to put into yourself.
That's
I think I can.
correct.
Let me share. I'm going to share my screen just real quick so people can see that pyramid, because it's a little harder to imagine just with our brains. So here's the pyramid right here. So the life of significance is the top, and it's cool that you started with that because I know it's really important to you to start with where you're going. You got to have the end in mind, and then you go to the bottom and you talk about physical, mental, spiritual, financial, inputting that ability to, you know, to basically have fuel, to have energy, to have whatever you need in your life to give back. And now there's a middle tier here that we haven't yet talked about. Tell us about that.
And that's love and adventure. And love, well, they're both important. And to me, I think they are the catalyst to finding what it is, why you're here on this earth, what it is you're meant to do. And you can't do that if you're not strong, right? You cannot. If you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to find the thing that really sets you off in life. You can't do it.
all your energy is going for survival.
Yes.
If you don't have those foundations in place, absolutely.
Maslow came up with it first. But we can stand on his shoulders. So love is, you know, we all know romantic love, and that's really super important, and it gives you energy and also inspiration. But when I talk about love, it's even bigger than that. It's trying to find doing things you love with people you love and places you love. And when you're doing that, you usually feel good. And if you're doing that and you're strong, then you feel great. And also when you, if you're doing work for something that you love, it gives you more strength to actually create something new that's never been done before. It gives you more power than the powers that are holding your life in place. So love is really important. And adventure, what I found about adventure is, and it can be, you know, hardcore adventure, whitewater rafting, or like the guy I interviewed yesterday, also a mind share, a friend of ours who runs Paleo Treats.
Oh, yeah.
He's a paraglider. He launches himself off of a mountaintop with nothing but wings and flies for a couple of hours.
And that's the epitome of adventure, but that's not all of it. You have a much bigger definition for adventure.
Yeah. So what that does, though, when you take those wild adventures, you're getting out of your regular life and you're getting into a different mindset where you can hear things differently, and you get clues from life, from the universe, or from wherever these clues come about what really gets you, what turns you on. And adventure can also be a lot softer. It could be reading a book. It could be watching a TV show. We're talking about screens, right? It could be following somebody on a podcast and transporting yourself out of the life you're in today into a life that somebody else is living, or some other existence that you might be living, even on a camping trip or whatever. Or me, I like to hike, and I got my inspiration for happy living hiking down the Grand Canyon and staying overnight in Phantom Ranch and then hiking back out, because I transported myself out of my usual self to someplace else. And when I do that, for me, I usually try to relax my mind and take in whatever it is I'm doing. And then suddenly, you know, I'll get this idea, or I'll get this feeling, and then I pay attention to those things. And so that's what love and adventure, they kind of swirl around there to help me find what is it I want to do, why is it I'm here on this earth. And it's really served me in my life up for these first 57 years.
Yeah, the way I hear you talking about adventure, I like that it doesn't just have to be leaving your house. It doesn't have to be a big, crazy physical adventure. What I'm hearing you say is that it's really stretching any one of those first 4 foundations. If you can stretch yourself mentally, if you can stretch yourself physically, stretch yourself financially, right? Do some giving that you didn't think you could do. Stretch yourself spiritually, you know, have some encounter in prayer or whatever that you hadn't done the day before. And anything that stretches those, and you can't stretch them unless they're full, right? So I love that foundation. I'm going to just let people take a quick look at that again. If you've got the foundation where you're fueling yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially, then you can think about, how can I infuse love into situations using those 4 foundations? How can I seek love using those 4 foundations? How can I have adventure by stretching myself, you know, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially? And then that, you're saying that kind of helps you figure out where your life of significance can lie?
Yeah, and I would just add, I would just shift the wording a little bit. It's not even, I don't think it's even figuring it out. I think it's letting it, I think it's receiving it. I don't think you really have to figure it out. I think it already exists. There's a great story called The Golden Pool of Magic. And I've got it somewhere. So if you're interested, I'll share that with you, and you can share it with your audience, with your community. But what it talks about is we were all born with our spirit completely on fire and living our life from our spirit. And then I can't remember all the words exactly, but he says, he's very clever. He says, we get that spirit spanked out, churched out, schooled out, combed out. You know, we get told to grow up for God's sake. We get put on the straight and narrow, and we end up living a life that's not from our spirit. It's from the expectations of culture, or from our gender, or from our, whatever. It's somebody else's dream. And what he talks about, which is what I believe, which is what happy living is all about, is that's always there. And so I think when you get into the love and adventure area, we're just relaxing all the shoulds that we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to be, all that's nonsense. It's what do I really want to be? What's in here? And it is in there for everybody. So I think when I get in those adventurous moments and I'm relaxing my mind, it might be meditating, it might be prayer, it might be rafting down a river and scared to death, then I'm relaxed. I don't put up the walls. I get to be my most true, natural, real self. And when I touch that, that's where my ideas come from.
Discovery, as opposed to
discovering your real self instead of, yes.
Cool. I have met some people this summer who I believe are living that life of significance. My daughter and I, and it was my daughter's inspiration actually, have been volunteering once a week at a local food pantry, and a lot of the people there are very regular volunteers, and a lot of them are retirees, and the kids notice. They're like, gosh, they're so nice there. Everyone's so happy. Everyone's so nice. And I just keep telling them, you got to keep that. That's how people stay alive. That's how they thrive in, their older years. I mean, some of them are like in their 90s. And they're still giving back 3 to 6 hours a week, packing food and all this stuff. But it's beautiful to see their spirit. They're coming together, and you can see that they're serving and that they're giving, and they definitely are waking up every day with a purpose. It's awesome. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. So now it's hard enough to think about these big ideas sometimes as adults, because some days, especially busy families, we feel like we're stuck at the bottom. We are just looking for survival. So how in the world can we bring this down to our kids, Matt? How can we help our kids hold on to some of that spirit that they're born with, know who they are, know where they're going? Like, it's hard enough to just feed them. Give us some tips for kids here.
I think, and I'm a father of 4, and I think that, in some regards, I know one thing, that I've been a really loving dad. I love my kids with all my heart. They might not always say I've been a good dad, or I know what I'm talking about, and especially until they get older. But this is what I would say, and it applies to children as well as to adults. Just get real with yourself, and kids, for sure when you're doing something that doesn't make you feel good, and you talk yourself into doing it anyways, you allow yourself to do something that you're not proud of. Stop doing those things. Just stop doing them. Trust yourself and get out of your head and get into your heart. And the contrary is also true. When you're doing something that really feels good to you, do more of those things in your life, and try to figure out as an adult, kids have the same thing. We all have things that we have to do, right? Kids have to go to school. Parents have to go to work, so the kids can continue to go to school.
Right.
And so that's fine. And you can add all kinds of things to your particular list that you have to do. But over time would be like your entire lifetime, because these things it takes a lifetime to build a great life. But over time, if you can shift to do more and more things that you love to do and fewer things that you have to do, that builds a nice life. So if you have to do your homework, go home and do your homework right away. Get it out of the way, and then do what you love to do and you want to do. So that's, to me, that's the real answer, is just getting real with yourself, getting out of your head, because your head lies to you, and getting into your heart, because your heart always tells you the truth.
So now I think a lot of kids would say it feels really good to play video games, and it feels really good to kind of just watch YouTube and Netflix and to watch TV all day. Is that what you mean? Like, do screens help or hinder this?
No, so let's go back to that kid who's saying that. If he or she is getting real, if that's really what turns them on, maybe that's what they should do. And so what are you going to do with that? Are you going to play all your life? You can't play all your life. Can you make a living out of it? People are making a living out of it.
It's true.
But if you want to, yeah, but it's okay. But if you want to make a living out of it, you gotta do your chores. You still got to do the stuff you're supposed to do. So you go to school, get straight A's, because that'll help you become a game executive at someday and run the entire world. So that's great. Go to school, get great grades. Do what your parents tell you to do, eat properly, get exercise, and play video games all you can. If that's it, that's going to make a good life. And I don't want to judge that, because that can be a way to go. But if you're doing that as an escape and you're not taking care of your business and it really doesn't make you feel good, not here, not when you're lying to yourself, but here in your heart, you're not proud of it, then something's wrong. And the issue is, your parents aren't going to pay. You're going to pay. Your life will suffer from it. Not my life, that's for sure, and not your parents' life. It's the kid's life. So that's why I mean, get real. And it's sometimes hard to get real, because it's easy to lie to ourselves. It's really easy to lie to ourselves, but you don't feel good when you do.
Sure, and it's easy to be lazy. First of all, I'm glad you used that word escape, because I think we want to differentiate between escape and adventure. Right? Yeah. Some people are going off and having great adventures so they can escape and turn their brain off.
Yes.
When you go out and have an adventure, you are turning your brain on and opening yourself to the rumblings of the world or whatever. Right. Huge difference there. I think what I'm hearing you say is that as parents, we need to teach our kids to be reflective and introspective. I don't know practically exactly how to do that, but I think what I'm hearing you say is like, yeah, if you're playing video games and it's the most wonderful thing in the world, number one, you got to make sure you're proud of it. But you don't even know what it means to be proud of something unless you're being reflective. And number two, you got to get that top thing on the pyramid and realize what can you do with this so that you're proud your whole life and you feel good about yourself, and that thing that makes you feel good, whatever, playing video games, is a piece of your life of significance, and that there needs to be other inputs to get you there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I give it just an example of that. So for me, never played a video game in my life. Well, I played Pong, I think, way back in the years, kids. It was a boring game too, believe me. But there's so much violence and negativity and gruesomeness and ugliness in video games. You can imagine that you love playing video games and you can create something new out of it that's actually uplifting and helps other people, genuinely helps other people. Now that's a very worthwhile goal. And that'd be something that'd be really supportive, especially after you do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. I think there's a lot of kids playing video games that haven't done their work yet.
That might be. I'm thinking a lot of parents are going, the heads are wagging right now.
They haven't taken care of the things that make them strong and physically healthy and all that. And so if you can do that, and the thing that you really love to do, it's like back in when I was a kid and a little before I was a kid, the big thing was rock and roll, and the parents said rock and roll is a horrible thing. Well, rock and roll wasn't a horrible thing for the guys and the gals that made a career out of it and lifted a lot of people, and that was actually a beautiful thing. So I think, this new generation, it's fine if you want to play video games, but take care of your business, take care of your health, and be true to yourself. And I think, then you can come to an answer that's going to be right for you, and you'll feel good about it.
Do you have any suggestions for how to infuse joy or infuse adventure into the things we have to do? I mean, there are chores and there are tasks and there's school and there's jobs, things we have to do.
I don't think I really do, except this. If your life plan is, and so let's say I want to be a rock and roller, or I want to be, the top video game player in the world, or I want to be a professional athlete, like I so desperately wanted to be a professional football player. So Then if that's what you're wanting to do, and you're taking the approach that I would recommend to you, that you do everything that you have to do to be able to go do this every day, right? Or every week or every month, whatever it is. And let's say video games. So I really love to play video games. I can't hardly stand it. And so I get up and I get myself ready for school and I eat right and I do everything I'm supposed to do. I come home, I get great grades. And then now after I've cleaned my whole list, then I get to go and play glorious video games for 3 hours before I go to bed, because I got to get to bed on time because I take care of myself.
Right.
So I can be the world's best video game player ever. Then it works. And so then when you're doing the things that you should do, that you must do, you're doing it for a purpose, to do the thing that you love to do. Yeah. And I just imagine if the kids were doing that, they'd be doing a little less video game playing, and they might be surprised to find out some other thing that they really love that turns them on even more than playing video games. Because, you know, there's probably only a very, very small percentage of people that are going to get to play video games their whole life.
As a career.
As a career. Kind of like professional sports or the movies, or, I mean, any celebrity status, it's the knife's edge. And so that's fine. I would never try to talk a kid out of it, but you have to do the work to get there. It's really hard to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, as parents, it's a great strategy to give your kids lots of different experiences, right? Give them experiences of examples of doing first things first, where they see you doing your work, hearing you talk about what work has significance and what work just has to be done, but, you know, doing them both and in the right order. Like, it's so good for kids to hear us, I think, talk about our lives and talk about the decisions we're making and the feelings we have, you know, when we're doing things in our life of significance path, why we're doing them, and kind of just let the kids see a little window into your thinking. Even little tiny children, age 3 and 4, I think, can be taught to smaller scale, right? They can't think about the end of their life, but they could think about that day or the end of the day, or let's clean this up so that we can go to the park, right? Even just that is setting that habit of do this, then get something that you really enjoy. It's a kind of a great strategy for life. Now, we got to end, of course, on a happy note. Matt from happyliving.com. What is your message of hope for parents? Like, final tip on kind of raising well-adjusted and even, dare I say, in this world, happy children?
I think I read in one of the books that I read over and over again, I read a passage where some folks from America were going over to India to meet a guru. I can't remember his name. And they met the guy, and he was old, and he had just broken his hip, and he was in a wheelchair, and he looked just completely, so joyful. And the doctor told the pilgrims, I guess they're called pilgrims, the people who were going over to visit him, the doctor had advised him that they don't even know how this guy can be sitting there. He's in such excruciating pain from his injury. But there he was, looking so peaceful. And so one of the Americans asked him, and part of his message, he said, I am not my body. So his spirit, it's not his body. And then he said, my life is my message. My life is my message. And I read that and I said, that's what I want to do. I want my life to be my message to other people. So what I would tell parents, live your life in a way that you're proud that your children are watching you. And because you're a mom of 4, like I'm a dad of 4, at a certain stage, the world influences these little guys way more than we do. But they always see us, and I think we're very powerful influences, negatively or positively.
Yep.
And so I would say, live your life like it's your message to your children.
That is the truth. And you have a little help for us. You have a little message for parents in the form of your book. Can you tell us how people can get their hands on your book?
Yes, and not just parents. One of the greatest reviews I had for the Belief Roadmap, when we first published it, it was a school teacher, I think in Ohio, and she said, this book should be in every school in America. I was like, oh my God, that's so wonderful. Aww. So it's an easy read. It's a short book. It's called The Belief Roadmap. You can just go to happyliving.com and click the join the community button. I think is what it says. Join the community. and just put your name in, and then I'll give you instructions how to download the book and have a read. And if you love it, give me a call, send me an email, or leave an Amazon review. And if you don't love it, then send me a private email and I'll talk to you about it.
So the best part, of course, about this, Matt, is in the spirit of giving back. So the Belief Roadmap is free.
Yes.
Free gift.
Free gift.
And so he will break down a little more those 4 fitnesses that you need to fuel your body, the love and adventure, and kind of discovering your life of significance. And really the figuring out is not what it is, but how we get there. We got to figure out how to live each day.
Yeah, and the important part about that message is the 7 foundations, those are my foundations, right? And some of them may fit for you, some of them may not fit for you, but explore what yours are, because you have, you're either gonna live the life you want to live, and if you're gonna do that, it's gonna be based on thought that you've given to it and developing philosophies about what's important to you in different aspects of your life, or you're gonna live somebody else's life. So this book is all about figuring out what's important to you, and I use myself as just a model to talk about, but then it's really about, okay, now you do your work, you do your reflection, think about what's important to you, and build your own belief roadmap. That's the idea.
Yes. Yeah. So if your life is your message, you need to know what your message is. Not Matt's message, not Katie's message, not the world's message, God forbid. And I would encourage people too to talk with your spouses about this. Talk with the people in your home, your spouses, your kids, whoever is important to you. See if you can help each other kind of work through being intentional and being reflective and determining where to find your joy, where to find your happiness. That's important conversations to have for sure. Thank you so much for being here, Matt Gersper of happyliving.com. It was a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And Kids Cook Real Food community, we will be back next week and every week with some information for parents on how to be better parents, how to get your kids in the kitchen, how to be healthy, how to get those foundations and fuel yourself so that you can live a life of significance. We don't always call it that, but that's basically what we're here to do. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.